good evening and welcome. I think people are still rolling in, so we'll just keep them rolling in. Meanwhile, though, let's hear from you guys that are here already. So if you could just type into the chat where you're sitting right now, where you're calling from, so people can get a vibe of who's here and where you're from. I know there's people from all over the world here. I know there's Nigeria. Here we go, Sussex, London, South Africa. That's where I am, Vermont, Massachusetts. So all over the place. Really exciting. And that's really cool because we're here today to talk about being inspired. It's an unusual topic for me because I usually like to focus on transformation rather than inspiration. But today we're going to talk about a method of inspiration that will also transform you at the same time. So that's kind of up my alley, actually. And the main question we're going to be asking is this: does creative inspiration come from inside us, or does it come from outside? So if you have an opinion on that already, you're welcome to share that in the chat. Inside, outside, what do you think? Where does inspiration come from? Now, at the very end, there's a twist to this question that will really, I hope you'll find it very interesting. It is something that it took me a while to get to. The rest of this talk I did before, but this twist at the end is something new that I only thought of today. And it's really gonna change the nature of the conversation at the end. So if you have to leave early, I suggest you reach out on this call right now and make a friend so that they can fill you in after the call, right? Also, if you stay to the end, there's a free ebook that I'm going to be sharing with you, which will kind of recap everything we talk about. And I think you'll like it. So another good reason to stay till the end. One other good reason to stay to the end is right before the end, if you allow me, if you think I've earned it, I'll be sharing a really good deal on our coaching training program, which if you're interested in that at all, this is the time to get it. So, but before we get to that, we're going to actually work on getting inspired. So I want to start now by asking you to think about a project you really want to be inspired about. A project where you feel you're lacking the inspiration you need. Have a thought about that and type that into the chat. What project would you like to walk out of here tonight, or I don't know, you're probably sitting down, but to leave this meeting tonight having new inspiration around? What project would that be? New job, Lenny? Writing your next book, madam. I haven't even read your first book. Starting a new business. Okay, all kinds of stuff. We got lots of people, by the way, earlier said that both about creative inspiration. So a lot of non-committal people here that don't want to choose one or the other, which is fair enough. School assignment, new job, 3 books, madam. Oh, okay, madam has 3 books. We're going to meet madam just now, in fact, I bet, because she's always sharing. Okay, leveraging your network to sell your company's products. So basically, lots of stuff you guys are not feeling inspired about that you would like to get some inspiration for. So you probably already know how to get inspired the normal way, and that's not working right now. So as we go through the workshop today, please keep that project in mind and think about new ways you might get inspired about that project. You willing to do that? Type yes in the chat. While you're typing yes, I want to throw a real simple little poll at you. And it's a really simple thing. I want you to just tell me what you'd like to get out of today. Here's the poll. You can actually answer as many of these as you'd like. So while the poll is finishing up, before we get going, I want to ask you to get conscious about something that you normally probably aren't so conscious about, which is your breathing. I want you to get ready to breathe a little bit. Whatever kind of breathing, whatever kind of practice, whatever pace you feel is right for you, the point is just to breathe. It'll help you and it'll help me. Now, Shivani Rawat, are you here?
Hi, Michael. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so Shivani is a contact of mine. I recently met in New Delhi, and Shivani is an expert on breathing. So Shivani is going to now help us breathe for a moment. So everybody dig right in and let Shivani lead you in some breathing. Welcome, Shivani.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for this. And hello, everyone. So let's get into breathing. And I would just request everyone to close their eyes just for a minute and just concentrate on your breath. Just think while you're breathing, inhaling and feeling your breath, just like you would feel your fingers, your hand, your toes, your legs. Inhaling love, exhaling gratitude, feeling peace. And you can actually feel the air. While you inhale, you can feel the breath. And just get conscious about your breathing and be in gratitude to the breath that we have. Just like being in gratitude to this body that helps us to support us to do different things in everyday life. You can even feel your breath by just putting the fingers under your nostrils and just feeling the air. It's a miracle how this breath is life. We can come back to our body by inhaling love and saying thank you to this body, to this breath, and to the universe. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You can open your eyes when you're comfortable.
Thank you, Shivani. That is straight from India. Now I want you
Thank
to
you, Michael.
keep, and Shivani's going to be back soon, but keep breathing in and out. While you warm up with your breathing, I'm going to do that little bit now at the beginning where those of you who don't know me get to find out why you should listen to me for the next few minutes. So just, while you keep breathing, keep the breathing going, keep that going. Don't let Shivani's introduction, fade away. Stick with that. So this is me, Michael Lee. I'm a transformational coach, trainer, facilitator, teacher, speaker, writer, and somewhat of an expert in the mindset of creativity and innovation. I'm an internationally accredited master of creativity and innovation coaching, and just recently became a master NLP practitioner, also a certified executive coach, thought leader coach, abundance coach, and life coach for what it's worth. What's more important is that I'm also a working creative professional. I've been more than 2 decades working the film and TV industries in the US, Europe, and Africa. Now, check out all this cool stuff behind me. This is pretty much a summary of my life. I went to Stanford when I was many years ago. My first job out of Stanford was as a script analyst for Castle Rock Pictures, but then I quit that, moved to Prague, where I co-founded an international literary magazine called Traffica and started working as a filmmaker. My TV productions have done okay. I've won 5 South African Film and TV Awards, and I'm currently producing adaptations of 3 South African novels for the screen. I'm also involved in education. I'm the co-founder of the Academy of Television and Screen Arts in Johannesburg, global advisor for Innovation Minds, and a coach on a really cool platform that's launching this month called the Mastery Hub. A guy named Mirko Macarone from Australia, who's launching that, and also a thing called my Pocket Coach from here. But what's really exciting me the most in my life right now is that really soon I'm going to be launching my first book. And Madam, you've already got, how many you said? 3 already. You've got 3 already.
Yes,
So
3.
3 already. So you're going to give me some tips. But I got some real cool creeds, what do you say, cred for my book. John DeMartini, Dr. John DeMartini, you may have heard of him. He wrote a foreword for me, and he said that it will cause a quick and noticeable shift in your creative abilities. Michael Michalko, who's also probably my greatest idol in the creativity world, said that the books gives us the chance to see ourselves in each other for the first time. The Innovativity Institute, which is the organization that I also co-founded, is focused on programs of training, coaching, consulting, and mindset makeovers to help leaders, entrepreneurs, companies, and creative professionals up their creativity and innovation skills and their results. And why is that important? It's important because today, as some of you probably know, creativity and innovation are among the very most important skills for everyone in business. So here's a couple of quotes to show what I mean by that. Most of you probably are pretty familiar with LinkedIn. So here's a great quote from LinkedIn about why creativity is so important, the most important investment you can make today. Forbes called creativity the skill of the future. IBM said that creativity is the critical factor in future success. So essentially, creativity is really important. In the Innovativity Institute, we have a couple of programs. I'll tell you very fast about them, and then the rest will be right at the end. Our flagship program is called the Innovation Explosion. It is a step-by-step 8-week program in which people who have done the program have consistently had their creativity scores increase and have jumpstart stalled projects for almost everyone who's participated. We also are running a creativity and innovation coach training and international certification program certified by the ICR. And I know there's a few people on this call who are ICF members. The ICF will also be joining this in a couple of months. And the amazing part's going to come right at the end of our talk, because the price for the first cohort, which has started already, is really low and it's almost full. Lisa, just give us a quick vibe on your experience in the program and tell us how it feels to finish it, please, so we can celebrate you.
Well, I always, I mean, I started it based in creativity. I mean, I come from a creative background, but what it did for me is really help me just really understand where creativity lies in my value system, and expand. It helped me focus on some projects that I'm working on, not just one project, but many projects, and just kind of take steps forward that I need to. I also know where I need to work on my own creativity, so I'm excited about that. How does it feel? Well, I still have work ahead, because my next step, I mean, I come not from coaching, I come from a different form of coaching. So my next step is actually building the coaching practice, and that's a little scary, but I'm excited to begin, and it's nice to have this foundation to back me up.
Everybody, please celebrate Lisa. She finished her course this week.
Yay, Lisa!
I'm not seeing enough love for Lisa. Come on, everybody, love Lisa. After we finish, I'm going to stay on the call after the hour is up, if anybody wants to stay on and talk more about the programs and so on. But for now, we're going to dive right into the rest of the talk about inspiration. Now, are you still breathing? I mean, of course you're still breathing.
Yes.
But are you breathing the way Shivani got you to go, consciously and carefully, and breathing with some intent? So keep doing it. Now, you might wonder about the word innovativity. It's not a big deal, just a combination of creativity and innovation into one term, because they are both just parts of a single process. It begins with encountering a problem and ends with sorting it out. So if creativity, right, is actually just this, creativity is the ability to think differently from yourself. And innovation is even simpler. Innovation is just creativity in action, right? Implementation of creativity. And most of the time, you think of creativity and innovation as very different things. Creativity being for art, innovation being maybe for science and technology. but they really come from the same place inside of us. And if you have the qualities to achieve one, you can easily transfer it to the other. And that's what's really important about not only our programs, but about this conversation today, because it applies rather to inspiration as well. So now, are you ready to dive in to this conversation about inspiration? Type yes in the chat if you are. I don't want you to fall asleep and stop breathing. Keep breathing, madam. Keep breathing. All right, breathe in and out, because this conversation is actually very simple as breathing. Here's a question I have for you. Very simple question. What inspires you? Type in the chat the kind of things that help you be inspired. You know, some people are inspired by drinking a wine, or some people are inspired by staying up late at night and working, and some people are inspired by going for a jog or going for a walk. What inspires you? We've got a whole bunch of stuff. The pursuit of truth, conversations with amazing people, challenges, music, being disconnected, under the shower, challenges, helping others and making a difference, being creative. Sure. Now, do you notice that pretty much everything so far that people have typed come from outside of you? Can you notice that? It's all about conversations you're having. It's all about kind of people you're around. It's all about, what kind of things are happening around you. That's what inspires you, pretty much, right? Calvin and Hobbes. He said, you have to wait for inspiration. You can't just turn it on like a faucet. You have to be in the right mood. What mood is that? Last minute panic. That's what Calvin gets inspired by. Now, this guy, anybody ever heard of Yoshiro Nakamutsu? Yoshiro Nakamutsu has invented over 3,000 patents, and he has some of the strangest methods to inspire himself of anybody I've come across. One of the things he does is drown himself. And he works underwater doing his innovation work. Just before he's about to drown, he comes back up and he calls it 0.05 seconds before death. That is what inspires him. So where other people some get inspired by going out and exercising and getting oxygen, he does oxygen deprivation. He also claims that he's built a room in his house, a bathroom that has no nails and tiled in gold, something like Donald Trump might have. He says that encourages creative thinking by blocking television and radio waves. He also has an elevator in his house that he claims helps him think better. But he denies that it's an elevator. He calls it a vertical moving room. So this guy has a lot of weird techniques to inspire himself. Some of you may have some strange techniques, and some of your techniques might be, more or less normal. But the bottom line is this. We know that for most of history, the great creative thinkers all agreed with you that inspiration came from outside. Consider quotes like this. William Blake, I myself do nothing. The Holy Spirit accomplishes all through me. Johannes Brahms, straight away the ideas flow in upon me directly from God. And a little closer to the time of the present, Man in Black, Johnny Cash, creative people have to be fed from the divine source. So in other words, it's pretty clear that according to these guys, inspiration comes to us from an outside force. And, we could go on and on and on with quotes about that. Now, for most of history, creativity has been thought of this way, not being part of us or coming from inside us. In ancient Greece, art was called techne, and techne meant technology or technique. It basically meant a method or a process, right? They had no terms corresponding to the create or creator that we have today. So even in the Republic, Plato said that will we say of a painter that he makes something? And his answer was, no, certainly not. He merely imitates. Now, this understanding of art had a distinct premise. Nature is perfect. There are laws in nature, and man ought to follow the laws, discover the laws, but submit to the laws, not seek freedom. So the idea of creative freedom didn't exist in ancient Greece. It would deflect us from the truth. The artist was a discoverer, not an innovator or an inventor. Now, the first known use of the word create in English was in Chaucer's The Parson's Tale. I'm going to just show you what it said because it's a bit complicated. This is the first time the word create was ever used in English that we know of. And although it be so that God created all things in right order, and nothing without order, but all things are ordained and numbered. So you can see it also referred to God, not to humans. All this time, for thousands of years, creative inspiration only came from outside of us. Now, for me, for most of my life, I saw it the same way. When I was younger, I used a lot of marijuana. I really liked marijuana because it made me feel inspired. I spent months in a small Moravian village called Mikolov. That's Mikolov. Okay, writing my second novel, getting high all day, and I was amazed at how good my novel was. Side point for those that don't know this, Moravia is a region east of Prague famous for its wine. You know, Bohemia, everybody knows Bohemia. That's Prague. Moravia next to Prague, not Bohemia, Moravia, famous for its wine. I drank a lot of that too. But what I discovered later is that the work I did while I was high wasn't that great. And in fact, the effort of inspiration probably ruined the novel more than helped it. But I've also done other things to get myself inspired, like ride up and down on public transport or sit for 10 or 12 hours in a chair without leaving my chair, right? Always, it was the external circumstances that got me inspired. On the other hand, even before I got to Moravia, I came across one of the greatest quotes I've ever heard about creative inspiration. Can't wait for inspiration to happen. You have to go out after it with a club. Mine 30 years ago, I saw this, more than 30 years ago. It stuck with me. I mean, I love that quote. People are always saying, I don't feel inspired today. I don't know what to do to feel inspired. I only get inspired when and that list you guys typed in, exercising, getting drunk, or whatever it is. And I've been the same my whole life, but Jack London's basic point that inspiration is up to us and not some outside force made a lot of sense. And he's not the only one that said that. Here's William Faulkner. Said he only writes when he's inspired. Luckily, he gets inspired every day at 9 a.m. Now, that quote's also attributed to other writers, Peter de Vries, Herman Wouk, Somerset Maugham, Rain Chandler. It doesn't matter who actually said it. The point is great, right? We must generate inspiration. It can't only come from outside. In fact, this is an idea that started working its way forward about 300 to 400 years ago in the Enlightenment. As far as we know, the first person to actually apply the idea of creativity to humans in the way that the Greeks did not was a Polish poet named Maciej Sarbiewski. And he said that poetry was a creative art for humans, but he resisted applying to other arts. In fact, he said that other arts only are imitations and copies. But things started changing. It's a gentleman named Hudard de la Motte. He started to realize that rules are mostly human. There are some natural rules like gravity, but most of the rules that exist in our lives are laws that we made up. So if we created those rules, why could we not also create other things? Then a contemporary of his named André Felibier put in writing on the record that the painter is a creator. And the Renaissance came in changing the way we saw creativity in humans. Marsilio Ficino wrote that the artist thinks up his works. Leon Battista Alberti wrote that an architect preordains his work. Raphael said that he shapes a painting according to his idea, not God's. Leonardo da Vinci, of course Leonardo had to be here, right? He said he employs shapes that do not exist in nature. Michelangelo said the artist realizes his vision rather than imitating nature. Vasari said that nature is conquered by art. And the Venetian art theoretician Paolo Pino said, painting is, this was extreme, inventing what is not. Veronese said painters avail themselves of the same liberties as poets and madmen. Zaccari said the artist shapes a new world and new paradises. Cesare Cesariano said that architects are, get this, demigods. Johannes Tinctoris said that a composer, Lenny, a composer is one who produces new songs. So by the 18th century, the concept of human creativity was appearing more often in art theory, linked with the concept of imagination. But by the 19th century, not only did art become a form of creativity, nothing else was, which created the mess we're in today. In the 20th century, we began to discuss creativity in the sciences. So we got things like quantum theory and the concept of theoretical physics. That stuff started to become creative. Finally, in 1950, J.P. Guilford gave an address to the American Psychological Association in which creativity became a science in itself, not just recognized as something that humans could do, but recognized as something that was only human, that was worth studying on its own, that was separate from art, science, or anything else. Are you still breathing? Breathe in and out. The idea that inspiration is something that either comes or doesn't, and that we have nothing to do with it, is a lie of creativity we want to get out of your space now. Inspiration is breathing. You figured that out by now, right? Now there's big I inspiration, little I inspiration, breathing inspiration, and that kind of inspiration we're all talking about. But what's less obvious and very important to start getting clear about is that that big inspiration can be as easy and natural as the breathing you're doing right now. Breathe in and out. Breathe in, inspiration. Breathe out, expiration. Now, we usually mean expiration a bit differently, but never mind. Number one, the Bible has it wrong. It says in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. But we all know by now that we create reality in our speaking, in our language, and the words that comprise our thoughts. A lot of you on this call are coaches. A lot of you do NLP. You understand that language creates, but there's something before the word, and that's breath. You can't speak without breathing first. Try speaking before breathing. You have to breathe. Then you can speak. So for some reason, the Bible skipped that part. Because actually, in the beginning was the Spirit, right? God. Inspiration must precede creation. Inspiration precedes the word. In the beginning is inspiration. Number two, inspiration is automatic. If you breathe in, now hold your breath. Just hold your breath. Hold it in. How long can you hold your breath? Type in the chat how long you think you can hold your breath. 10 seconds, less than a minute. So the world record for holding breath, anybody know how long that is? World record for holding your breath is 24 minutes and 3 seconds. Guy named Alex Segura is a swimmer and freediver, and that broke his own world record by a minute. So that's pretty impressive, right? Are you still holding your breath? If you're still holding your breath, the average person starts to go into medical distress after less than 2 minutes of holding your breath. It's a very rare person who can last anywhere even close to Segura. After 5 or 6 minutes, most people will automatically get knocked unconscious because your body will knock you out to make you stop holding your breath. Here's what I mean. You have to breathe eventually, right? It's automatic. You can try to avoid being inspired, but you can't do it very long. It's unnatural. When you breathe out, you have to breathe in again. See, inspiration isn't an effort. It's a myth that it's an effort. Inspiration is automatic if you just let it be. Number three, inspiration automatically creates. See, you might hold your breath for a while. It's kind of healthy, actually. It's a nice workout to get going. It perhaps even makes it more powerful, but soon it becomes a strain. And then it becomes an effort, and then it becomes impossible. You have to exhale. And when you exhale, you're putting a new creation out into the world. This is a very, very important point. Inspiration automatically creates output, whether you like it or not. People believe they're not creative, right? You might want to raise your hand if you think you're not that creative compared to others, just so we see who's here that thinks that. But science tells us that's not true. We're all born creative, all of us. It's how we know how to walk. It's how we know how to learn anything. And we're all born knowing how to breathe too. See, it's based on a very simple principle. 98% of 5-year-olds are creative. Does anybody have any idea how many adults remain as creative geniuses compared to 5-year-olds? 98% of
2%.
5-year-olds are creative geniuses. Sorry?
2%. 2%.
2%. That is the correct answer. 98% of adults have lost, or 96% have lost the creative genius that we all had when we were born. Now, why is that? Well, there's really 3 reasons for that I know of. One is school, right? Everybody knows that school destroys creativity. That's obvious. Everybody knows that. The other is society. Society built the schools, and it destroys creativity as well. But the third one, this is the important one most people overlook, is the self. Because all of us have, as we get older, we become more clear on who we are, right? it becomes really important to us to know who we are. And step by step, we start to develop personality. And that becomes the block against our creativity because we start to know who we are. And you'll notice, we're going to come back to this right at the end today. You'll notice that the things about you that make you who you are include things like what inspires you, doesn't it? The stuff that inspires you is part of your personality. What inspires you isn't the same thing as what inspires Dennis, and what inspires Alex isn't the same thing as what inspires David, right? Lenny has different inspiration than Madam. So part of what makes you who you are is what inspires you. You still breathing? Now, you know you've been breathing the whole time, right? And every time you breathe out, you're mixing the air that you breathed in with waste from your body, expelling the waste, mostly carbon dioxide coming out, right? Plants need us to breathe. We're creating the nutrients they need. Blocking your creative inspiration is the same as blocking your breathing. It cannot last long, and it does not work out well. See, most successful creatives know that most of the output they give is junk, waste, useless, right? I know for me, up to 80% of what I write, I have to rewrite, at least. And it's worse than that for film. Most of what I've shot as a filmmaker, the editor doesn't even see it. Hemingway very famously said, the first draft of anything is shit. So just get it out, right? Like breathe it out. Everybody say this, just breathe in, and just say, let go. Breathe in.
Let go.
There we go, Madam. And just say, let go. Feels good, right? Just to say that, doesn't it? See, we're holding in our inspiration, trying to cling on to it, hoping that we will not lose that bit of inspiration we found. But inspiration automatically creates. It doesn't need to be held on to. Feels good though, right? When you feel inspired? Feels great, right? Now, of course it does, because it's part of the cleansing process. We bring in fresh nutrients when we breathe, mostly oxygen and nitrogen. That enriches us, it cleanses us when we breathe it back out. Cleansing feels great. And this is a different way to look at creativity, very important, because creativity feels good because it's a cleansing. It's not logical to expect that whatever you're doing that's creative should be perfect. In fact, it should be mostly crap. Like Hemingway said, you're just getting it out. That's why breathing feels good, because you're getting the crap out. That's why creativity should feel good too. Just get the crap out. And that's why so many studies have shown such great health benefits to creativity. Increased lifespan, reduced risk of dementia, increased intelligence, and believe it or not, a strengthened immune system. If you go to our website, which I'll give you at the end of this talk, there's more information about some of the benefits of being creative. Number 5, very important, inspiration is a cycle. See, all this talk of inspiration as breathing brings us back to the key question. Breathing comes from inside of us, right? Well, there's a couple points to note here. First, inspiration is part of a cycle. The output follows the input. You can't input again until you output, right? You can't get inspired until you breathe out. So if you're holding your breath, you cannot breathe in again until you breathe out. So creating is only possible when you're inspired, and being inspired is only possible when you're being creative. Now, here's the surprising thing. I didn't even know this till I did some research. Inhaled air is mostly, does anybody know? Mostly what gas is inhaled air? Nitrogen. In fact, okay, here's one, Daniel. Do you know how much percent oxygen is inhaled air? Oh man, Adam Fleming, you guys are smarter than me. 20% oxygen approximately, just under 21%. Exhaled air has 100 times more carbon dioxide than inhaled air, but still has 16% oxygen. So 21% or less than 21% oxygen in what we inhale, but 16% what we exhale. And the amount of nitrogen that we exhale is almost identical. In other words, not only are we helping plants by having 100 times more carbon dioxide, we're also providing most of the oxygen and nitrogen that we would actually need to bring back in. So it's a cycle. We breathe out, we provide what we need. That's why if you're trapped in a small space, we can still survive for a while, because we're cycling, recycling the inspiration. So the point that inspiration is a cycle is very important, because your creative output is what makes you inspired. when you breathe out your creativity, it helps you get inspired again. Now, one more time, just one more time, please breathe in and hold your breath. Keep holding your breath. Inspiration is a collaboration. Now, does the breathing start inside you and bring the air in, or does it start outside you and force the air out from there? It depends how you look at it, right? Are you breathing it in, or is outside breathing it into you? Because holding your breath takes effort. We already established that. Unless you really pay attention, you don't even know that you're breathing. Until Shivani comes and gets you to do that exercise, or until you hold your breath, then you have to start asking the question, is it you that's breathing, or is it the universe, nature, God, spirit breathing you? Does it even matter? Because it seems best to think of breathing as a collaboration between inside and outside, like the two of them together. Both participate in the process. Go ahead and breathe out. Breathing is a collaboration between myself and the universe. And that's what creativity is too. Not only is it physically a collaboration, as in the inside and outside both contribute, but the benefits go both ways, right? Trees need us, we need trees. We benefit from being creative, and we benefit others by being creative. We know those health benefits I mentioned, but what we lose sight of is that we also benefit the world around us in ways that are less obvious, even when our creativity starts to seem a little bit like shit. So I want to share this with you. These 6 points we've gone through. This is a really wonderful quote from a woman named Amma. She says, there's no difference between the creator and creation, just as there's no difference between the ocean and its waves. It's all one thing. It's all one thing. Now, there is one more point I want to get to, which is the twist I told you about a little bit earlier. But I'd like to hear from you what you've gotten so far out of this talk in these 6 points. Would anybody like to? Okay, madam, go ahead.
Thank you so far for the training. The first time I've actually been able to reason with the fact that creativity is as easy flowing as the air we breathe in. And that also frees me from having to force my inspiration, because if I can breathe in and out freely, then I can be inspired freely as well. Thank you.
Okay, let's get one other person. So, madam, just quickly, how did it impact the project? What project were you working on?
I want to write my new book called Image Redefined, and somehow I've been distracted more than uninspired. But I'm finding out that now in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I don't actually have to wait for inspiration, because I can get inspired the minute I focus my mind on it, just as easy as breathing. So that would help me to get writing on my book from tonight.
One more person, anybody?
Michael, I do believe that what I'm hearing is that inspiration comes from outside, but also you need to let it in. You must let yourself be inspired, otherwise it's not going to happen. So and I like the connection between the flow of breath and inspiration. It is a nice metaphor to use as well. So I'm feeling much more enlightened with that metaphor. Thanks.
What project are you working on, Dennis?
My PhD and my book and my nursery and a lot of other projects as well. So
cool. All right. I asked you at the beginning if I would be able to share about our coaching program right before the end. So before I get to the last point, are you okay with me doing that now? Just please type in the chat yes if that's okay with you. This is how most people experience creativity. Type yes in the chat if this is something that you've experienced when you're trying to be creative with something. The weird part is this is actually what creativity works like. It's very simple, 3-step process. You see stuff, perceive it, you conceive it, you represent it. So you think about stuff, you perceive stuff, you think about it, and you spit it out. And The problem we have is that same place we were talking about before about the self, because our self has filters on the beginning and on the end, and even in the ideation phase, that blocks us from thinking clearly and openly. We can only think of the kind of things that we would think of. So without getting into a lot of detail right now, just show you that this program called the Innovation Explosion is an 8-week step-by-step program that works through reconstructing your creative and innovative thinking process. It can be done on your own time, online completely. It takes about a half an hour a day for 8 weeks. And that Dr. DeMartini forward I mentioned, he points out very strongly that you have to be willing to put in the work if you want to transform. Because while your conscious mind is important at the beginning and end of this process, it's your subconscious mind that actually generates ideas. So if you don't focus on actually building the relationship between those two, then you'll never get them back into being friends again, working properly together. So most of us have a bad relationship with our subconscious. Most of us have stifled or abused it, doesn't trust us anymore, doesn't want to play. Now, by restoring that natural balance, you're able to increase your creativity and innovation. And that's fine if that's what interests you, is that you'd like to do a course like that on its own, not interested in coaching. I'll give you an extra little special offer on that too. But the main thing we're focused on here is the Creativity and Innovation Coach training with international certification. It's unique in the world. There's really only one other program I know of that's similar at all. It's run by the Creative Coaching Association in America. It takes more than a year, costs $4,000. Now, our program is completed in 3 months if you're focused. And for now, it's a bit cheaper than $4,000. It's certified by the International Coaches Register, as I mentioned, and it is going to be also continuing professional education through the ICF in a couple of months. So before I tell you how much it is, because it's not $4,000, here's some things that it will do for you. If you want to be more creative and innovative, if you want to become a better creativity and innovation coach, or become one at all, if you want to have a system or a process, another system if you already have one, if you want to get more and better clients, if you want to have products you can sell to your clients, because we have the Innovation Explosion and the coaching process to sell to other people that you might want to do that. If you want to become an innovation leader in an organization that you're involved with, be part of a growing community of creativity and innovation coaches who are doing the program, also make progress on a personal project that's been stuck, which you'll do as part of the creativity and innovation training that goes along with it. Most important of all, to innovate yourself, because that's the most important thing you can do. I've mentioned it a little bit here. It's really at the core of everything we do, is that who you are, who you've become all this time that you put into your life to become who you are has gotten you hooked and addicted, stuck, attached. Whoever you are right now, it's very hard to stop being that and be something else. And you can only have the ideas you would have. So to become more flexible, become more creative, it's critical that you start to become more adaptable yourself. Finally, have more fun. These are the kind of people you could actually serve if you become a creativity and innovation coach, or if you have a certification as a coach. And here's a couple of people who may or may not be on this call who I've done the program in the past. This is what they got out of it. They thought it was great. So are we at the point now where you would like to know how much it costs? Nobody wants to know how much it costs? I won't tell you then. So this is what comes with it. It's an 8-week course called the Innovation Explosion. There's the coaching course, which is also an online training. There's 4 sessions of live group coaching that happens at the end of you having done those 8 weeks. There's some practical work that has to get done to get your certification. And you will then have a 1-year license to operate using our techniques if you want to, and actually sell our programs and stuff. If you want to do that, you don't have to. You could do it whatever you want with your certification. Okay. Because my goal is within the next 2 years to train and certify 1,000 coaches. The cost is supposed to be $1,497, which is actually really, really cheap anyway, compared to some of the programs that I've seen and compared to the one that CCA does. But we're trying to close the first cohort. There's 10 spaces left. So if you want to grab one of those 10 spots, it's $497. That's the website where you can get it. Madam says, but That's the website where you can get it. I'm going to add one more thing to it. If you want, well, you could pay in 3 payments if that helps you. So, I mean, it's almost free. It's $197 a month for 3 months. If you grab one of those last 10 spots, I'm going to give you 2 free coaching calls, one at the beginning, one at the end of the program. Okay. That's what I'm going to do just to sweeten the pot. I want to get these 10 spots closed because the other people in the program, I want to complete it and move forward. The next round, it's going to be $997. You can also book a call with me at our website. So you can go there to join the coaching program. You can go there to book a call. This is the coupon code you want to use to get the coaching program for $497. Okay. Now, that is the pitch. Now I'm going to get to the most important part of this whole talk. Ready? Type yes in the chat if you're ready. Okay. So the very last step is a bit of a twist. I mentioned that the fact of who you are is the biggest block against our creativity. The fact that we are stuck with the personality we have, the self we have. So this is what we have to realize. Every single thing you've put on that list, every single thing you've said that is going to determine whether you're inspired or not, all that external stuff only inspires you. I mean, you might have a friend that gets inspired by wine too. You might have a friend that gets inspired by the same music you do, but lots of people don't. So whatever it is that inspires you is actually coming from inside of you. Not a single thing outside of you is inspiring you. Not one. Because everything that you see outside yourself, whether it's nature, whether it's the beautiful clouds behind me, whether it's the love of your child, all of that is just a decision you're making in your mind to have it inspire you. So actually, inspiration doesn't come from outside. Not at all. Not a bit. They had it wrong for thousands of years. It only comes from inside you. And because of that, you can start making a different choice. You can be inspired when you're a little bit drunk, or you can just be inspired when you're not. You can be inspired by the kind of music you love, or you can be inspired by the kind of music your girlfriend loves. You can be inspired by the, beautiful clouds like you're seeing behind me, or you can be inspired by a horrible, gray, rainy day. You can just be inspired. You really can. It is coachable. It is teachable. And you can be inspired at any point you want. Outside is inside. Type yes in the chat to get what I mean. Take down this code if you're going to need it. Book a call with me if you want to. This is the last thing I'm going to say, and then we're out of time. You don't want to put inspiration outside you for no reason. Because G.K. Chesterton said it very well. Never invoke the gods unless you really want them to appear because it annoys them very much. Rather, stick with the inspiration you can create inside yourself. Don't bother the gods with it. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thanks for spending an hour with us. I'm going to stay on the line now. If anybody has questions you want to ask or talk about anything else, I'm still here. Thanks. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody have any questions? Anybody think, anything you want to ask? Anything you want to share? Raise your hands if you want to.
Yes, hello.